With a contract update and more, this is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Despite not being seen on AEW programming much lately, Jake the Snake Roberts confirmed he is still with the company, as Ringside News wrote that wrestling legend Jake the Snake Roberts recently sat down with the Wrestling Classics Justin to provide an update on his current status with AEW and share insights into his health and career. Roberts, who made headlines earlier this year after re-signing with AEW in March, confirmed that he's still with the company despite not being involved in many recent storylines. It's still going well, I'm still there. We're just not doing much, Roberts said, while expressing his appreciation for the AEW environment. I love it there. I love Tony Khan, man. Right now, he's trying to do so much. He's got a stable of wrestlers like no other. When asked whether AEW has utilized his client Lance Archer to his full potential, Roberts was clear, oh god no. No, they haven't, man. He can do so much. He's probably the best big man in the business. Roberts reassured fans that they could expect to see him back in AEW soon, confidently stating, oh yeah. Justin then touched on Roberts' health, and the wrestling icon opened up about his well-being. I feel good. I'm having to occasionally go on oxygen. You know, I'm 69 years old. If someone would have told me that I'd live to 69, I would have laughed at them, because I've been pretty rough on myself. Partied hard for about 25 years, and I really abused my body, my soul, and my mind. But I've been sober now for 12 years. No drugs, no alcohol, and just trying to enjoy life. I'm doing it. Confirming his status with WWE, Rob Van Dam recalled working with AEW, telling the Cheap Heat Productions podcast, the first time that I talked to Tony Khan about doing this, working with AEW, a factor was that I still have a WWE Legends deal, so my use to AEW would be limited as far as they can't put me on video games, action figures, stuff like that, and so you could say it's limited on both ends, or you could say I got both ends going, best of both worlds, or you could just say RVD does whatever he wants. Recalling his attack on Seth Rollins where he delivered 6 tsunamis, Bronson Reed said this to Chris Van Vliet on Insight. I was hoping for this when I first debuted, to be honest, and that's nothing against the way I came back to WWE. But I feel like what I did with Seth was how I should have debuted. I did something similar in TNA when I attacked Josh Alexander on my first night. I think that's what I should have done in my WWE debut. Touching on transitioning from NXT to the main roster in WWE, Tiffany Stratton told Busted Open Radio, immediately when I got called up, I was so nervous. I didn't know any of the girls in the locker room. I was never in front of big audiences. I was always in front of the same 5,200 people at NXT. So definitely the bigger audiences, the different states, the different crowds every week, it definitely kind of threw me off for a second. I had to be like, okay, you have to adjust to this. It's more pressure, but as I go, I've been getting so much more comfortable. My confidence is there now. I don't second guess myself anymore. I just go out and be Tiffany Stratton. Speaking about the effects of Hurricane Milton, Kevin Nash said this on Instagram.
People always say, I'm gonna ride out the storm. Or are you gonna stay? Are you gonna leave? Are you gonna hunker down? Once you make the decision to stay, made the decision to stay. once the power kicks off, things get real quiet. 85, 90 mile an hour winds. They push and tug. And try everything they can to impregnate all the hard-earned dollars you spent to make your house hurricane-proof. You can hear it. You can hear every piece of fiberglass, every piece of Kevlar, every bolt, fastener being pushed. Mother Nature looking for a weakness. You just got to make sure that weakness isn't you. I think this is my 16th storm I've written out. Not saying it's the brightest thing on earth, but tonight we've had a couple of minor little leaks here and there that were able to be fixed with a towel or a strip of duct tape, or taking a noodle that your kid plays in the pool with it, cut it in half and jam it in the track of a sliding glass door. I got about 3 hours left of this one. And it's been live. My wife's upstairs getting some sleep right now. I don't know how. Me, that's the old army boy in me. I can't be relieved of my duty until I know my duty is complete. My job is to make sure that everybody in this house makes it out alive. That includes yours truly. The humanity of it all. Peace.
Staying on the topic of the hurricane, the former WWE Thunderdome in St. Petersburg, Florida has sustained damage to the roof, which can be seen in these videos. Asked if he would wrestle again following his return to the ring in AEW, commentator for the company, Nigel McGuiness, told Talk is Jericho, "There's always a chance, and certainly now that I've realized, I don't want to say it's not as difficult as I thought it was, because it is obviously very difficult. But I think I didn't give myself enough credit for being able to do it, and I think I listened to too many people. I said it in a promo relatively recently. You hear that nobody knows you used to be a wrestler enough, and you start to believe it, and then one day the voice telling you is your own. And then one day, and for me this took a long time, one day you learn it was your voice all alone and nobody else gives a So I'm at the stage now where I feel eternally blessed to have been able to get back in the ring. Certainly, I'm open to the possibility, but if I don't wrestle again, that's okay as well. As I said, I've had closure and we'll see what happens. What dreams may come." Recalling the time he was commentating Raw in 2018, Jonathan Coachman said this to Chris Van Vliet: "If you notice now, how many three-man booths are there on Raw or SmackDown? None. It's too difficult. It's nothing against Corey Graves, but he just happened to be the one that I was working with when I came back. And I believe in my core that he didn't want me there, and again, that's okay because it's his time now. But it doesn't mean that I didn't have something to give. But I was like the outcast. I was trying to get in, and I remember years ago, JR used to teach me that when you do a three-man booth, it's like a three-man weave, and you've got to be able to hit guys for a layup or a dunk at the right times, while Vince is screaming in your ear. And if everybody's not on the same page, the ball's going to go out of bounds." And that's what I felt like those few months when I came back in 2018 was we fumbled the ball out of bounds because it was a three-man booth. And if I would have been there with Michael or whoever, and I could have been allowed to go back to heel coach in a two-man booth, I think it would have been completely different. During that same interview, Jonathan Coachman mentioned this about a return to WWE, but the misconception is that for some reason I want to go back. That I would, if Triple H called me, I'd go scrambling back because I want to go back. No, I do not want to go back. What I mean is I'm open to any discussion, but for example, somebody said, "Oh, you were terrible in 2018 when you went back after being at ESPN." There are two reasons for that. A, I listened to Vince, mistake number one, because he wanted me to keep the credibility I had when I was at ESPN as a journalist, as a guy who did SportsCenter, instead of doing heel coach, which was the best version of coach. And I just started doing heel coach again on social media, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So that was a mistake. Talking about his frequent visits to NXT backstage, CM Punk noted on the No Contest Wrestling podcast, "Every single one of them, I must have so many people giving me compliments. I go home to my wife feeling completely humbled and emotional about it." Like going back to what I said earlier in the conversation. I woke up one day and I was this dude. When kids come up to me and feel comfortable enough to show me a picture of themselves when they were little at an autograph signing and tell me, "Hey, you inspire me to do this," it's just like when I got to tell Roddy Piper, "Hey, you're the reason I did this." I don't know if it meant anything to him, but it meant something to me to be able to tell him that. So legitimately on a daily basis, I think about what that has done for me mentally and spiritually. It's like every athlete has that love for the game and wants to give back the way that I have, especially when people are willing to listen. Oh, bro, I just want them to not deal with any of the crap that I dealt with. That's my thing. The indie scene, I feel, will always be there a little bit, but it's kind of evaporating. When I started wrestling, I could work every weekend, maybe even twice sometimes. There were places to work. I really feel like there aren't as many anymore. There's just a handful of indies in different places, and if they only run once a month, how much experience are you really getting? When I signed and got shuffled down to Kentucky to go to OVW, I was like, I don't want to be here, because I had already had a somewhat successful career at Ring of Honor, but I was almost too young to understand the opportunity and a little bit foolish. The conditions were drastically different back then. Now, NXT is set up like a college sports program. They have everything in-house and air conditioning, which I always appreciate. When I walk in, everybody's happy to see me, and I'm happy to be there and see them. They have 6 rings in one room, and they have physical therapy and massage facilities. Everything you could possibly need. It's just like a college program. There will be kids laid up on the floor with Normatec boots on, someone getting worked on, people getting dry needled, and someone rehabbing an ACL over here. They have everything at their disposal to be the best they can be, multiple weight rooms, and even promo classes. To me, it's like Disney World for an athlete, and that's why I love going down there. It feels like the fountain of youth because I walk in and think, this is great. I'm like Wilford Brimley in Cocoon. On that same podcast, CM Punk spoke about his relationship with Paul Heyman, saying, yeah, we met in OVW when I got signed. The system was completely different. It's like two completely different planets now. So I got signed, and my main point of contact was John Laurinaitis. He tells me that we don't think we're going to send you to OVW. We're going to put you right on the main roster. Oh, cool, great, but that didn't work out, and they didn't know what to do with me, so then they sent me to OVW. When I got signed, I either got a phone call or an email from Jim Cornette saying, hey kid, super excited. You're coming down here now. This is going to be great. Can't wait to work with you. I already got ideas. I was just like, wow, Jim Cornette. I thought, oh man, this is going to be great. I get to work under Jim Cornette. Then about a week later, he calls me and says, God damn it, kid, I got fired. So I'm immediately back to, oh well, there goes my life. My career is over. The culture was such that at that time, I was looked at negatively. Oh, he's too indie. He's too this, he's too that. At that time, the main roster, when I got called up on TV in 2006, was a murderer's row of top guys. Nothing but Hall of Famers. Taker was still on the road full-time. Kane was on the road full-time. Triple H was a full-time wrestler. HBK was just starting to not do as many house shows, but still did them, and Flair was a main roster full-time talent. Edge, Rey Mysterio, Batista, Nasty Batista, Randy, like Cena. So there are 11 guys right there, and it's just like, how are you going to fight for TV time against all these Hall of Famers? So Cornette gets fired, and I'm just like, ah, great. I always kind of operated under the idea that this is fleeting. I'm going to get released. I didn't have any allies. I didn't have any friends. No one's got your back. Then I go down to OVW, and boom, they put Paul Heyman there. I was disappointed I couldn't learn from Jim Cornette, but excited to learn from Paul Heyman. I made friends with Danny Davis, who's equally a legend and has done everything. I dedicated myself to learning as much as I could in that window that I thought I had until I got fired. Heyman would fly into Louisville at about 9-10 p.m. on a Tuesday. I would pick him up at the airport and we'd go right to the Davis Arena. I would either watch him write TV and format it. He did it like it was me making a cup of coffee. He was doing all this stuff and then he slides it over to me and says, what do you think? What don't you understand? What is this? I learned how to format a show. I learned how to time out a show. Half a second in, half a second out for commercials. I learned all this stuff and then he starts asking me questions. What do you think of this idea? What would you do? The next thing I know, that idea is on the television show. I'm like, am I writing the television show? With the business being the way it is, I did not want anybody to find that out because that would just have been more heat on me. Then we do TV Wednesday night and I would spend all Wednesday night in this little closet of a room with Danny Davis and Paul Heyman editing the show. I learned how to edit it and I would just sit there while they were screaming at each other, two old school dudes just yelling at each other. I just tried to learn as much as I could. That was my first experience with Paul Heyman, but I learned very fast that he was down there because other people didn't like him either. So me becoming a Paul Heyman guy was more of a scarlet letter on me than anything else. It was just like, yeah, we don't like Punk. Oh, Heyman likes him now? I hate him. Again, it was one of those things where I was kind of confused, but my attitude was like, oh, F me? No, F you. Going over the status of Jesse Ventura with WWE, Ringside News wrote that Jesse Ventura has officially signed a new Legends deal with WWE, marking his return to the company after 2 decades. Ventura, who made this announcement on his Substack, expressed his surprise and satisfaction, humorously stating that hell has frozen over. He reflected on the significance of returning to WWE at this point in his life, especially considering the pivotal role he played in professional wrestling during his earlier years. Yes, Governor Jesse Ventura has officially returned to the WWE, fresh off signing a new Legends contract. The Body shares his thoughts on why he has returned to the WWE after a 2-decade absence. Plus, Jesse drops a few hints at just what the WWE and the Body have in store for the millions of wrestling fans around the world. He wrote, Ventura also teased future collaborations with WWE, suggesting that bigger and better things are yet to come. In a playful nod to his past, he joked about never getting getting the chance to face off against Hulk Hogan, hinting at the unresolved history between the two legends. But the excitement doesn't stop there. Wrestling legend Greg Gagne recently revealed on the Straight Talk with the Boss podcast that Ventura will also return to WWE in a more hands-on capacity. According to Gagne, Ventura has signed on to serve as a color commentator for the upcoming NBC specials, which include a nostalgic return of Saturday night's main event. This will see Ventura once again bring his signature commentary style to WWE broadcasts. I mean, with what they're paying those guys to come in, I think Jesse's going to do they're doing some NBC Saturday night shows, about 4 of them. They're going to use Jesse for that, Gagne stated. WWE plans to air about 4 Saturday night's main event specials on NBC, reviving the iconic show that played a critical role in Vince McMahon's transformation of WWE into a national powerhouse during the 1980s. This return to WWE followed Ventura's appearance on July 29th, 2024 at Monday Night Raw in Minnesota, where he was greeted by Triple H. Ventura's presence at the event and his new Legends deal signify an important chapter in his wrestling career, rekindling ties with the company after such a long absence. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.